Okay, welcome back. The other, vexatious happening in our lives right now is the inexplicable, shortage of fuel. All of this started, back in February, mid-February thereabouts, and by the time it hit us in Lagos here, southwest of the country, we hear that it had been going on for a bit, maybe up to a week, if not nearly 2 weeks before then. We've heard since that 100 million liters of fuel, dirty fuel it was called, fuel too high in ethanol, not fit for Nigeria's purpose and all of that. This had contaminated the system, and NNPC said that they would fix it. They could fix it. They can't. They haven't. And we're hearing stories. Now, in the midst of all of this, the queues are lengthening up and down the land, and the prices have gone through the roof. People are not selling at the correct price. They're hiking the price of PMS, that is fuel to you and I. They're hiking the price of it, and now the Ukraine situation has gone and happened, and there is speculation that it could actually adversely affect the situation we have here. It could worsen it. Now, is this a scaremongering tactic, or is there any economic sense in that? I'm happy that we have with us Mr. Johnson Chukwu, CEO, Cowry Investment. He's an economist and a financial expert. Good morning to you, Johnson.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for making time to join us. So our worry is that, do you see any possible roll-on effect, knock-on effect, I beg your pardon, for the Ukrainian situation and, the ease with which we've been, using our oil? Is it going to affect it, make it worse?
Yes, actually, it's already happening. It's no longer whether it will happen or whether we're going to feel the effect of the Ukraine crisis on our oil industry. Your intro indicated that we've had consistent fuel scarcity initially as a result of the delivery of off-spec fuel into the country.
Yes.
But ordinarily, that problem should have by now been addressed, if not for the crisis we have in Ukraine. Remember that Russia is the second largest crude oil exporter in the world. And it then means that a lot of Western refineries, Western European refineries depend on Russian oil for refining. Today, to take crude from Russia through the Black Sea to the Western countries is a difficult thing, because vessels are being hit by projectiles from warships. And that means that shipping route has now become a difficult route to navigate. What that means is that it's taking a longer time to take crude to refineries where they are refined, and therefore that is creating supply bottlenecks that is restricting the volume of refined petroleum product we can bring into Nigeria today. And because we already had a gap before this war started, the war has now exacerbated the problem we already had, and it's going to take quite some time to address the supply bottleneck. As it stands today, virtually crude price has gone up. All crude oil related products have gone up. Crude price has gone up. Crude price is now over $110 per barrel. Natural gas has gone up. And we also, though we're a producer of natural gas, we're also a consumer of natural gas. And as it stands today, Russia accounts for about 35% of consumption of natural gas consumed in Western countries. Though that is still flowing, but there are also concerns that as the war progresses, it could be affected. So the price of natural gas has gone up, and it's not easy to evacuate LNG. I mean, it's an LNG because you need to deal with having the caskets and the time it takes to have the vessel that will take the LNG from where it's produced to where it's consumed. So virtually all oil products, like I said, have gone up, and that means refined petroleum products has gone up. For us as a country, we are importing 100% of our PMS, and today we have to pay much higher price to be bringing that PMS. If you recall, Akuyori, that the federal government had made provision of about 3 trillion naira for subsidy on petroleum products, and that was at the time when crude price was about $70. Today, at $110, approaching $120, then the subsidy could get to 5 trillion naira, which will leave government with little or no resource to pay salaries and wages, to meet basic social needs like healthcare, education, to pay for infrastructure, and possibly to even arm and equip the security forces. So Nigeria is affected in multiple ways as a result of the war.
What do you have any insight into our governments or the country's storage potential? I mean, you would have thought, those of us that are not versed in these matters, that because we hear it happens in other countries, they have the strategic storage reserve. One would have thought that in a situation like this, we could then, tap into that while all of this is sorting out. Otherwise, what's the purpose of a storage reserve? So do you have any insights into, one, whether, because I don't know, quite frankly, there are too many of us that are now saying that you can't believe anything the NNPC says anymore. If a whole Mele Kyari spoke on their behalf, and here we are, still no better than the day he spoke. It's like you can't believe, what government is telling you anymore. Do you have any insight into storage policies and what they're used for, and whether Nigeria indeed does have one?
Yes, we do. We have a strategic storage reserve, a strategic reserve of refined petroleum products. But recall that for us, we already had a leaking roof before the rain started. So what has happened is that the leaking roof had completely drenched our rooms and our beds before the rain started. The issue we had earlier of ospec fuel meant that the NNPC would have gone into their whatever reserve they have. Of course, the reserve wouldn't be that huge because we're importing, and the cost of importing a product you are storing is quite high. So whatever strategic reserve we had must have been exhausted when we had the ospec fuel. Because if you remember when Mele Kyari was the GMD of NNP was saying that we're going to put this under control within this period of time. Obviously, part of that assurance must also be that beyond the fact that we were bringing in additional cargo, we also needed to tap on the strategic reserve. So I think whatever reserve, if any, that we had would have been exhausted. Well, of course, we used to, and I knew there was a provision for Nigeria to have some strategic reserve. But if you already had a problem before a bigger problem came, and then you thought you could meet the shortfall you had by importing more, and at the time when you ordered for more, a bigger problem came up and made it difficult to deliver those more. That's part of the problem we have. So it's not a case of whether we have strategic reserve. If we are refining petroleum products, of course, we could have more reserve. The NNPs are always saying we have about 30 days or so, 60 days of reserve. But if you have, because we already had a problem before this Russian-Ukrainian war started, they must have deployed that strategic reserve to try to cushion the shortage we had occasioned by the off-spec fuel that was imported.
And what do you think of expert analysts saying that part of, especially coming from marketers, petroleum marketers, that part of the problem is Nigerians and their panic buying, that they are not buying just what they need, they are panic buying much more than they need and storing it, and trying to make the case that this also it has a knock-on effect and is adding to the storage out there. What do you think of that line of reasoning?
I think that's very simplistic. I don't subscribe to that. In the first place, remember this theory of Q. The theory of Q is basically that if the rate of arrival is higher than the rate of exit, a queue will build up. The converse is also the case, where the rate of arrival is less than the rate of exit. There won't be anything in the pipeline, or left in the pipe. There won't be any opportunity to keep anything in the pipe. What we have today is that the rate of arrival of refined petroleum product is less than the rate of consumption. The NNPs have said that we are consuming about 67 million liters a day. And currently, the rate of arrival is far less than that rate of consumption. So you are certainly going to have a situation where people can't get the product. There's nothing left in the pipe. And when we talk of people are being panic buying, if you have filled up your tank, will you go to another filling station to queue again? No, the answer is no. You only go to filling stations if you don't have any product in your tank. Again, if you have a half tank and they have to go, will you go and sit in a filling station for a whole day? No, the answer is no, unless you are not rational. Then if you talk of storage, what level of storage, personal storage capacity do households have to store fuel? We all know it's a very volatile, highly inflammable item. Most people will not even tolerate storing fuel in their homes. So let's assume you even have maybe 100 liters or 200 liters to store. Are you now storing 1 million liters at home? No, the answer is no. The reality is that we are not receiving enough products arriving to the country and are being discharged through the depots to the filling stations as is being consumed on a daily basis. And that's why people, sometimes you drive into the filling station you used to buy and they don't have fuel. So you go to the next one. If you 10 of you used to go to a particular filling station to buy, and that filling station is not selling, it's simply 10 of you will go to the next station to buy. And 10 other people from another station that was not selling will also come to that station to buy. Then you end up with, assuming the distribution is 10% per filling station, you now have 30 in a single filling station, and the filling station may not even have product that they expect. So you guys queue. Of course, there's also apprehension, because when you see a queue, you want to say, if you see what they are buying, what they are selling, you want to quickly see if you can get up and to buy.
That's right.
Because you're not sure you can get at the next station to buy. So that's compounds it. But the reality is that the core of the problem is that we are not having enough arrivals of refined petroleum products as the daily consumption.
Well, Johnson, this analysis, what therefore will be your best scientific guess as to when all of this is going to be over? Never mind what the NNPC was telling us. What would be your best guess as to when this is going to be over? Because I don't know. It doesn't look as if the government really thinks this is an emergency, an urgency. No heads have rolled, for instance, and on and on and on. So what's your best guess as to when we might be out of this quagmire?
Well, that's a difficult call to make. The simple is that there are a lot of exogenous factors beyond the control of NNPC, factors beyond the control of national economic managers that are impacting on the current situation. The issues around Ukraine and Russia, nobody knows how it will end. It could actually snowball into a bigger crisis. It could snowball into a situation where Russia could cut off crude oil supply and gas supply to Western European countries, or Western European countries deciding to include importation of crude oil and natural gas among the sanctions they're imposing on Russia. So that will further spill the issues beyond current situations. And as it stands today, we have 100% of refined petroleum products. So whatever happens globally will affect us directly. The knock-on effect will hit us immediately. If, for instance, other countries say, look, like that happened during the peak of COVID, where countries say we cannot export medical items to other countries, and you get to the point where the Western, for instance, European countries say, look, in the meantime, we need to ensure energy sufficiency, and we can't allow export of refined product out of European refineries. We're going to find it more difficult. If, for instance, they decide to buy up, because some of these orders are done in forward deals. Refineries in Singapore may have entered into contract that will require them to deliver refined petroleum products for the next 6 months. So they're not going to come to Nigeria because we buy spot. We don't have place our orders in advance. We buy from the spot market. That means we buy at the day's price based on our available quantity in the market. So we are in a difficult situation. We can't get it's difficult for anyone to second guess what will happen, unless you can also second guess how the war would end.
Indeed, I hear you. Fidel in Owerri, good morning to you, sir. Are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I want to say that the federal government has not shown enough will and determination to solve this fuel problem. I am saying this with all sense of responsibility because how long will it take them under an emergency situation to import fuel and flood the filling stations and depots with enough of this commodity? Appreciating the fact that it is causing a lot of problems in the nation in terms of economic problems. So they should give it more action. And above all, there is no effective monitoring. If you go to the various filling stations where they are selling, we don't have regulatory agencies, DPR, and so on and so forth. They just allow people to exploit people. In the night, they will tell you they are not selling. In the night, they sell to black market. No effective monitoring and regulations. And the marketers are not even helping matters. It's like they are making their money and deriving joy in punishing people. If not, what stops the marketers from also setting up a committee that will go around to ensure that filling stations fuels are dispensed to people in the filling stations where they have them.
Okay.
The whole thing is shrouded with what I don't like. The suffering is getting too much. Government should act very fast.
All right.
Fidel.
Thank you very much, Fidel, for calling in. Johnson, I know it's no use crying over spilled milk, but I wonder, I certainly hope that in government they are working on this not happening again, because it does indicate that there were no sort of checks. We have just been lucky all these years when we haven't had a problem. And the moment you put in a bad ethanol supply, it just passed and surprised everybody, where we would have thought that, oh, those guys are technical, they're scientists, they're technocrats, they know how they test batches, and so we would have thought that this could never happen because somebody would have seen that this cannot enter our supply chain. I hope, and I want your thoughts on whether indeed this could happen again after all said and done, because it looks like people just weren't doing their job.
What I would say is that the basic thing that happened was previously, until this incident happened, the analysis, the required specification of fuel coming to the country did not make any provision for methanol, or did not seek to check if there's methanol in it. So there is a detailed specification, the color, the sulfur content, and several other parameters that the inspection agents are required to check to be sure that those fuels conform to the standard of fuel that is allowed into the country. But methanol was not specified in that. Okay. But with this, what has happened? So it basically slipped through because it wasn't a parameter that was being measured. So now that it's now embedded, it's incorporated into the quality of what the inspection agents must determine whether it's available, present in any fuel before it's allowed admitted into the country. So I don't think methanol will be a problem in future. Okay. You can't rule out the possibility of something going on in human life, but I don't think this particular problem would be repeated in the form it happened in terms of what are the chemical component that should be part of the fuel that is brought into the country.
Okay, thank you for that, Johnson, especially that the point about that you made, that we were to hear subsequently that, oh, we never tested for ethanol. Ethanol was never one of the parameters we tested for. Okay. Reverend Dominic, second time today. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Yori. Sorry for calling for second time.
No problem.
Yori, let me say this. I want to say, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I want to say two things quickly. Before this time, I used to think the problem of Nigeria, meanwhile, your guests have spoken very well. I used to think that the problem of Nigeria is bad leadership or the leaders in power. It's not true. The problem of our nation is followership. Yesterday, I walked into a filling station to buy fuel, and the man says 300 naira. So I began to protest. You know, Reverend Dominic and the way we protest. Do you know most of them want to link me? Say, okay, you don't want to buy it, go, make me buy it. They want to buy it 300. I was protesting for them. And by the grace of God, God had given me bread and water to drink. Oh, my God. And the people that are protesting for, I said, if you don't want to buy, we want to buy 300 naira. That's by the side. The Cowry, the MD, it's a laughing matter, honestly, sorry. The MD of NNBC said that he will punish 3 stations who are selling above price. I said, sir, who punish you for putting us into this mess? And this is why what I said, the last caller, when we were discussing the Cowry said that, what will you do to please us? Who on earth in Nigeria will believe government? What is happening today? Jory, if Nigerians are Nigerians, if the followers are followers, why should we ask ourselves, why are we in this mess? We have 4 refineries and we cannot produce 1 liter. We're supposed to be in advantage today if we have done well to even petrol to other African nations. But today, a nation that is oil producing is begging for peer bread. Is not a shame.
Okay.
God will help this nation.
All right. Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. And Johnson, finally, let me come to you with sort of in desperation asking what can be done now to indeed do what NNPC first of all told us they could do, which they can't, which is to take this problem off the table entirely in about a week. Is there, you've told us about spot buying, we need spot buying and all of that, but what are the challenges and what can be done if money is no object?
Well, it's not as simple as that. It's gone beyond whether money is the problem or not. The market for refined petroleum products is not. You don't have so much of unsold cargo that you can actually say, okay, let's today let Nigeria order for 100 million liters. So we don't have that.
It's all been brought forward,
so
as you were explaining.
So it's beyond the issue of money. Do you have available unsold cargo that you can snap up in the market? We don't have that in the market today. So we have to prepare for some level of orderly restoration, some period for restoration of order. It's not going to happen overnight. I wouldn't know whether it will take a week or two, but I also know that NNPC is not sleeping. They are working. I'm not making a case for them, but I know they have war rooms where they are working in 4 hours to resolve this issue.
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much, Johnson Chukwu, CEO, Cowry Investments. Thank you very much for making time for us this morning. We appreciate you and your time.
My pleasure.
Okay. So, there you have it. Johnson Chukwu there, saying that, look, he's not going to make a guess, but maybe he didn't want to put a time frame to it. And I don't blame him, because sometimes Nigerians are frustrated and they say that it doesn't matter how many people you know who are in the right places and you speak to them. What you get to them doesn't usually, when you got from them, doesn't always add up. Maybe some of the time it does, but it doesn't always add up. And so here we are in the middle of what many Nigerians will call a mess. Of course, we've heard that if you go back to the origin, well, NNPC and co and whoever was responsible for testing these things, say, well, you see, ethanol was never part of it. This ethanol thing has surprised us. We never did check for ethanol. It's all right. It's okay. But so Nigerians, aluta continua. The struggle continues at the petrol pumps, people carrying kegs all over the place, people just doing business, and the inherent danger. People are buying fuel who are not professionals and are storing such, and they're not professionals. I don't know that they know the first thing about safely storing PMS. So there's all of that added on, not to mention the fact that transportation has gone up. It's a mess, quite frankly. But, we have to be positive and hope that this will indeed be sorted the way NNPC first said it would be sorted before something went wrong. Not too sure what exactly went wrong, but the scampering. Johnson Chukwu said he knows for a fact that they're working round the clock 24 hours in NNPC. And well, they might. If they could spend more time, they should go for it. I guess that's my rant this morning, and it brings us to the end of the program. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Tomorrow is another day. We'll be with a fresh topic, and I'll see you then, God willing. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.